Hello, everybody. We are live. There's music from Lee G, Forward Momentum, and there he is on screen. How you doing, Lee?
I'm fine, thanks, Steve. How are you, mate?
Doing great. Back for another episode.
Yep.
I hear myself coming through. Had it
Have you
playing in the
got YouTube
background.
on in the background, have you?
Yeah, I did.
Yeah, I do that often. Oh,
All the
where's that
time.
sound coming from? Oh, yeah, it's YouTube.
Yeah.
Stop watching
Let's
yourself,
see
you
who we got
narcissist.
in the chat. We got Ted Branston's here, the Chairnator. Let me
Yeah.
just pop him on
All
screen
right,
here. Hey,
Ted. How you
Ted.
doing, fella?
That new pup's doing okay. Chairnator's here.
Chair and hello, Stephen. You all right, fella?
Mark's Shed Talk is here. Hey, Mark, how you
Mark.
doing?
Good day, mate.
And let's see, looks like a small crowd tonight. And also in the chat and on screen with us, Midwest Night Watchers and Shiro Sounds. We're going to bring them in here in a minute. Talk about some of their favorite cases, some of their experiences, and what they're up to over on their respective channels. You have to pardon me tonight. My voice is just a little rough from this wacky weather here in New
You
England.
ruffian, you ruffian.
Absolutely. Well, so what you been up to?
I had the night writer last night and wrote an actual lyrical song. How about that? With the help of the JDs and Lenterman. How
I didn't
wonderful is
get to
that?
stick around for all that. We went to bed early, but sounded
Yeah,
like you're
yeah,
having a
it
good time.
deserted me. It deserted this. He says he's my friend's JDs and Lenterman. You know, he does.
And as far as you know, I am.
yeah, that's it, yeah. He's lying.
We
No,
got
all
D-Rock
good, mate.
here.
Hello,
We'll
D-Rock.
go
All right,
ahead
mate.
and get started here. Go ahead and bring in our guests. Welcome to the screen, Midwest Night Watchers, Garrel, and his wife, Shiro Sounds, Jane. How you doing, guys?
Hi,
We're
guys.
doing
Thanks for
good.
having us.
Thank
Good to see
you.
you.
I had you all on my radio show, Everything Out There on the Clyde Lewis Radio Network a few weeks ago, and we had interesting conversation over there, not only about unexplained aerial phenomena, as they like to call them now, UFOs to us, but also some anomalous sounds and sonic anomalies and things. It was a great conversation. Hope to get back into that tonight.
Oh, yeah. There's always something to talk about. I mean, there's just so much stuff out there that, it's related to UFOs or paranormal, and it all kind of melds together, and everybody has different experiences, and it's crazy.
Yeah, that's the thing. Everybody, pretty much. Some of them may be in denial, but I think everybody's had some kind of experience or another, whether it be paranormal, supernatural, something in the sky, something in the woods, or all the above.
I find those new trumpet sounds, I find that extraordinary, whatever that is.
Yeah,
Right.
Nobody's been able to
Yeah.
find them where they're coming from. They sound like they're coming from the sky, but what? It's very strange. Very
Or the
strange
metallic
indeed.
sound.
Yeah, well, it's one and the same kind of thing, isn't it? You either
Yeah.
have the metallic sound or the trumpet sound. It seems to be connected. Strange things they are. Of course, I'm interested
Yeah,
in
and
sound.
all the
just-
weird groans and moans everybody's
Yeah.
talking about they're hearing coming from
Right.
the earth, or
Yeah.
like it's almost like the wailing that they talk about in the Bible. Everybody's
Yeah,
talking
I'll
about
tell
that.
you what it reminds me of is War of the Worlds.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they say, they hear the mechanical sounds from within the earth.
Yeah. Are we hearing a
Creepy.
different dimension? Are these sounds coming through the dimensions? That's what I've always wondered.
There you
I
go.
like the old
CERN's gone
stories
and
of
opened
the
up a hole.
old stories of the Tommy knockers and things that lived underground that the miners would talk about. There's stuff under the ground, in the sky,
Yeah.
all around us, I think.
Right.
Yes, I think the veils being either that or the tricks they're trying to use to stop us from absorbing, the old pineal gland and stuff. Maybe it's breaking free, and maybe we're starting to, you know, realize these things again
Experience
as
a little
humanity.
more, or
You know,
there's Project Bluebeam, where all of it may just be an illusion. It's hard to tell, and with the
there is that.
advancements in
Yeah,
AI,
Yeah.
there's no telling what they're going to do to us.
That's the hard thing. You have these experiences, and you hear other people's experiences. They might not be exactly the same, but they all have some sort of things in common. But then
Yeah.
you have, the stories of, okay, it could be a government government project. It could be aliens. It could be the earth changing, because we listen to Dolores Cannon and she's talked about the earth changing and going into a higher dimension. So it's going to take everything, in our whole atmosphere and bring it up to a higher dimension. So that would thin the veil too. So
Well,
how do
that's
you
frequency
separate all
change, isn't
that
it?
and try to figure out
That's
how
what
to navigate
I
it?
was trying to get to, was the idea of frequency change,
Yep.
vibrational state change.
Yep.
Say for instance we vibrate it. Say just as a offhand number. It's not a scientific way to look at it, but just say we vibrate at 200 decibels or whatever, right, or hertz, and we're changing to 206 hertz. And that state might widen our hearing range and our visual range and our perception range, because other things why do people keep seeing things but they're not really there, or
Right.
or they interact with or seem to interact with things but they're not apparently there, or like how many times as well people, you could call it ghosts or whatever, but how do we know that's just not a shadow of another dimension
Right.
that we're seeing,
And
and
then
that
you
the
have
voices
things
that
like,
people clairvoyants are talking to could be
yeah,
people on
could be
in a
just
different
on the other side of the
vibrationary
veil.
state.
There's actually a different dimension. And
Yeah.
then you have things like the Schumann resonance, where
Yeah.
everything vibrates at a
Schumann,
certain
yep.
frequency.
That's
And
what I
who's
was
to
talking about,
say
really. Yeah.
stuff from other places don't vibrate at a different frequency, and there's a little bleed through. I know I used to do amateur radio and stuff, and you had to be careful because I could key up my mic when I had my linear running, even on an old CB radio, and my neighbors could hear me coming out of their television. So
Yep.
it could be something like that too, something with a higher
Yeah.
power or higher frequency that's outputting out there is the signals bleeding through.
It's like
That's
we
the
only
other
have to.
thing. More and more people are trying to raise their vibrations. I know me and James have actively been trying to raise our vibrations. So as we're raising our vibrations, maybe we're piercing into their realm since we're
Right.
in their.
That's a thought too.
Or maybe it's not necessarily them coming to us. Maybe we're peeking into them.
That's it. Yeah, you don't
Mhm.
know what it is as well. But Ted Branson just said tectonic plate movements. That usually, if you hear tectonic plate movements, that usually causes earthquakes. Ted, that's the
Mhm.
thing. If any plates are moving against each other at all, that wouldn't necessarily could cause sound vibrations. But the thing is, it would cause an earthquake, and that would register on the Richter scale. And these noises don't. They don't register on the Richter scale. That's the thing. So there's no coalition between the sounds and then earthquake warnings or anything like
Right.
that. There's no coalition at all. Nothing like that. So it's
So
a
it leads
strange
you from
thing.
being a natural event to almost a supernatural event, what we're experiencing.
Yeah,
Right.
it's just beyond understanding. No science hasn't been able to answer it. Hasn't been able to answer it at all. So yeah, it's a strange thing.
Yeah, and I think there'll be advancements in science and things where there will be more understanding just because they don't understand it yet. Don't
Yep.
mean that they make discoveries all the time. And my dad was a scientist out at Oak Ridge National Laboratory in Tennessee, and he talked about even under laboratory conditions, some of those things they were doing out there, sometimes anomalous things happen. He said they couldn't explain it, they couldn't replicate it, yet they observed it under these controlled conditions. It happened, and they couldn't get it to happen again. He said just some
Well,
things you can't explain. Science can't
Well, it's
explain.
like the double slit experiment, isn't it?
Hmm.
If you're looking
Yep.
at it, you'll see two particles go through. If you're not looking at it, three go through, kind of thing. It's like, what? So what does that mean? Does that mean if I'm not looking at something, it can be different?
Yeah.
What the hell?
If
That's
the
the
tree
old.
falls
If
in
the
the
tree
forest,
falls in the
yeah.
forest and you're not there, does it make a sound?
And
Whoa.
Mhm.
I've read some research where they're observing those particles and they behave differently when
Yeah.
they're being observed. Like they
Yeah.
know that they're like somebody's
It's
watching.
like they know
Quick,
they're
do
being
something.
observed. It's like,
Yeah.
how?
So there's
How?
a
You're talking
sentience in
particles.
there somewhere.
It's quantum
Yeah.
physics, and it's part of quantum physics. That is. Yeah, crazy stuff, man. Crazy, mate.
Well, and
wonder
either
why I'm a
one of
hippie.
you or both can answer this, but how did you get interested in this field? Was there a particular experience, either individually or shared, that put you on this path to watching the skies and investigating sight and sound anomalies?
Well, being raised in the 60s, I was raised by a single mom raising four of us kids. And she believed in Sasquatch, UFOs, Loch Ness. So I was raised knowing about all this. But on the other hand, she took us to church, and you know better not to talk about any of this in church. So I've always had this belief. And then a few years ago, when we kind of stopped going to the organization of a church, I see myself as a supernatural, paranormal, conspiracist Christian. That you add everything together, and it makes so much more sense. So I guess I've ever since when I was little, we'd be on the road trip. I'm always looking up in the sky. I've always wanted to see a UFO when I was little. But then when as an adult, I have never really seen a metallic ship, but I see all kinds of lights, disappearing and brightening up and just saying hi to us. But I guess I was always been interested in these subjects.
Yeah, and I know when you're on my radio show, you talked about how you have apps. You can look at the stars, you can look at the
Yes.
satellites, you can look at the flight paths, and then know you can rule out those things to know that what you're
I've
seeing
I've got the
is
same
truly
thing.
something
I've got the
anomalous.
apps so that I know. I know. Like I said, I've got video footage of it and things I've seen. And whenever I go somewhere, like if I'm fishing, I'll always note where the traffic, air traffic is, so that I
Yeah.
know if I see anything going anywhere else, then that's nothing to do with the air traffic, unless it's a helicopter. And a helicopter you'll hear from miles away, and especially if you're out fishing where it's quiet.
Right.
Oh, there's times on our app that we see something. We have outdoor cameras that we've been watching all kinds of activity with sky, deer, you name it. But there has been some times that Girl sees something blinking and we look on the flight and what does it actually say, Girl? Unavailable or blocked or something like
Unavailable
that.
data.
Yeah,
Yes,
unavailable data. So you know darn well
that's it.
that's secret little things flying
Yeah,
around.
they're blocking them. See, you can't
Yeah.
even trust the apps because, like I said,
Right.
rather than saying it actually marking it as an object or just saying anomalous, it's like you're not allowed to see it. Well, that could be military or anything like that. They've told these apps that you are not allowed to show those.
Mm-hmm.
But surely it would say what would it say? Something like national security or something like that on it. It'd say NS or something. It would say something appertaining to, that's something it's there, but you're not allowed to know what it is.
Right.
Right.
And that's fair enough. That is fair enough because obviously, for enemy's sake, you don't want them to know what you've got necessarily. But
it's the things
yeah.
that don't show up.
Yeah.
I don't care if it's a government. I mean, I do care if it's a government agency, but if we don't have the data on the government agency, then what about the things that are not actually showing? It doesn't even show as a blip on the radar on these apps,
Right.
and then all of a sudden you see it moving across your sky. I mean, that's the things that we're interested in.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm exactly the same. Anything that's I'm a sky watcher. I'm like yourselves. I am addicted to. I mean, and I live in England, in the south of England, and our weather over here, I'm sure you understand, is forever changing. They're saying if you don't like the weather, wait 10 minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's one of those
That's
countries.
the way
The
it
same
is
as
here,
New
too.
England's the same. It's the weather changes constantly, so we don't get to see a lot of the sky. But when I do, we haven't got a lot of stars to get mixed up with, if you know what I mean. So we're kind of lucky like that in the hemisphere that we're in. So you tend to notice things more. Whereas if it's a sky full of stars, the likelihood of you seeing something is a lot harder because there's so much there already.
Right.
So-
That's the right thing. Growing up, watching the constellations, and I took astronomy in college, and so I'm used to the patterns of the constellations and what's around them. Then as an adult now, I'm sitting there watching the skies like, well, that's not supposed to be there. Or all of a sudden you see something in a constellation that is either supposed to be there or not supposed to be there. I mean, it's kind of weird that way.
Yeah, I'm really lucky here. As I go out of my back door, the Orion's belt comes across my house like that sort of thing. That's really smart. So it's always there. Yeah, it's always there going across like that. It's like, oh, that is so cool. Very lucky.
Yeah, we get to see the Big Dipper quite a bit.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah. Well,
The Big
see,
Dipper
you're
and
in.
Cassiopeia. Then in our southern hemisphere, in the winter, we get to see Orion the Hunter. So
Yeah.
we have
Yeah.
those three that we always judge by on what's going on in the sky.
Yeah. It's all right for some, isn't it? The stars that you guys have over there, though, your hemisphere is just crowded. Yeah. Of course, I'd love to see those stars, but I appreciate the calmness of our sky. So because, like I said, it's not as distracting as
Right.
as somewhere like that, because it's too many stars and it's hard to pinpoint something else unless it's a shooting star that you see.
Right. And how do you explain these that you see a light and then all of a sudden it just powers up
Yeah,
and
what's
then
that about?
disappears totally? That's not a satellite reflecting off the sun or
Yeah,
anything like that.
yeah. People try to say, "Oh, it's a flare satellite." If you see an orb, but you can
Right.
tell. I know you can't really tell height with a light object because it's just light. So distance and height is really hard to make out and understand. But you can't tell me that everything we see flying across is a FLIR satellite. I think again, it's like the old swamp gas thing or the balloon thing. It's just something to
Right.
fob you off with. Yeah, go away, silly little man, silly man.
Mm-hmm.
I think they just like to mock you. No, if it's not, I've always had this opinion with UFOs. I call them UFOs, not UAPs. The problem I've got is that if they're not if they're nothing to worry about and you were just all silly people going on about silly things, why do they feel the need to cover things up?
Right.
And, and
There
we've
wouldn't be a
talked
need to
about that
cover anything up or tell you not to talk about
where
things, especially
people get a
pilots.
visit from government officials or the men in black or whoever
Yeah,
immediately after they've observed something before they've had time to breathe a word of it. They
yeah,
get a
Yep.
knock at the door or a phone call saying, "Don't tell anybody what you just observed." That's
Mm-hmm.
there's a monitoring process where these things are when they're cited, then they intimidate the witnesses, I believe.
Or a
yeah.
black
Like I said,
helicopter flying over.
exactly. I mean, if there's
Mm-hmm.
nothing there to worry about, and they're saying, "Oh, we're all a bunch of stupid, tinfoil hat people." Well, for number one, I'm insulted. Number two,
Mm-hmm.
because my eyes work the same as their eyes work, and I don't jump straight to aliens, but I do recognise that something unidentified is unidentified. I don't know what it is, but
Right.
that if it's
And
like I said,
there's the
yeah, there we
U.S.
go.
Air Force
Yeah, weather
aircraft
balloons, weather balloons,
identification
weather
chart.
balloons. Oh yeah,
Every
the
time
balloon,
there's
the
a
actual
weather
balloon is
balloon,
swamp gas.
except for the weather balloon, it's swamp gas. But we got the USS Enterprise, the Bat plane, the SR-51, the satellite. That's all weather balloons. Sputnik there, but the actual weather balloon, swamp gas. There you go. There's your
Right.
official explanation.
That's
And
it.
we're the
Yeah,
stupid ones.
yeah. We are stupid. We are
Mm-hmm.
dumb. We're dumb individuals. Our eyes don't work correctly, and everything we see and think as well is stupid, and we're tinfoil hats. So. But like I said, if there was nothing there to worry about and it's all such a big joke, why are they so bothered about us knowing things or being told things? Why don't they just
Yeah.
tell us everything they know about it, everything that they've got, every bit of information they've got on it? It would debunk everybody, wouldn't it? If they've got all the information that it's actually nothing and that it's just nothing to even think about, and we're a bunch of idiots, tell us what it is we're a bunch of idiots about. Show us. Because you've got
Yep.
all the information, haven't you? They know all, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
We just had James Rink on our show this last week and talking about the secret super soldier project, and he told us that there was actually a Starship Enterprise. That we actually have that, not necessarily the U.S., but that is an existing vessel. Well, that just reminds me when the last time I was on with Steve that I talked about my experience seeing the USS Enterprise up in the sky. It was this right there in front of all of us. Me and the friends were playing wiffle ball in the side yard of our neighbor's house, and I looked up and saw it, and it was just stationary, just perfect. And it could have been anything else, and it was. And now I have confirmation from him that yeah, we actually have that. It does exist.
It's
Yeah.
amazing. So was that TV show, was that predictive programming to get you used to seeing something like that and to
Yeah,
accept
Well,
that?
we say the
disclosures.
same thing. The CIA run TV and movies. That they're the ones that want
That's why they
to
call it
direct
programming.
us. You know, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
it's all about getting you to follow a path and lead you into slowly into whatever kind of disclosure they want you to have, or to steer you away from whatever they don't want you to know. You know, so that they fear you on one side and then embrace you on another side, so
Right.
that you move towards the safer side. You know, that's why all this scare tactics is so high nowadays, I think, as well, is because we're not so stupid and they know it. That's why
Yep.
they have to be extreme with their scare tactics now. It used to be, every 10 years you'd get a slight scare, but now it's like used to get every 10 years a slight scare of something to keep you down, and then every 50 years a major scare to really frighten you, to really make sure you stay down and don't ask questions. Now you get the major scares every 10 years now. So, something's hyped up for a start. Definitely something has got more serious from their point of view, that we're obviously we're hanging over the target, definitely.
Well, the more they
Someone
try
is.
to hide, it seems like the more is appearing and the more people are seeing sightings. So I
Well,
honestly
that's the
think
more
they're going, well, we're going to show up no matter what.
yeah. Well, that's the same as telling people don't do this. And what do? They
They
go
Do
and
do
it.
do
it.
it. Because
Yeah.
we're not going to be told what not to do. You don't tell me how to live my life, or how to
Yep.
think, or what I put inside me, or what I wear.
That's
You
what I
know?
do when they come out and say, "Oh, it's a conspiracy theory." I go,
Yeah.
"Huh, okay,
Oh,
I'm going to
I'm
look
into
into
that.
it."
I'll go and have
Yeah.
a
Yeah,
look.
yeah,
You go
I'm going to
down that
look.
Exactly.
rabbit hole.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly the opposite. Yeah, it's all conspiracy theory. Oh, is it? Oh, just up my
Huh,
alley. Let's have a look.
cool. Another rabbit
Cool.
hole.
So it must be real then. Let's have a real look at this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like when they say, "Oh, that person's bad." Are they? I'm on their side.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, definitely.
And and a lot of it, it's conspiracy fact. It's not a theory or I know like Project Paperclip. My dad confirmed that years and years ago. He talked about during World War II or right after World War II, they brought a lot of those German scientists over to America. He
Yeah.
worked right along beside them at the National Laboratory there. Oh, but that didn't happen. But then it came out later. Well, yeah, it did. So
Right.
there you go. They try to discredit and disprove and debunk everything. And I think it's that way, especially with some of the UFO groups and things. People that get too close to the truth, they send out agents of disinformation to go in and cause division and strife in those groups to keep the people arguing amongst themselves instead of staying on track and on focus as a whole to try to get some actual answers. It's
Right.
And
typical
we
magician
just
type.
found out
Don't
that you
pay
since you're
attention.
talking
Look up here while I'm doing this, and this hand is doing
Yeah, and
something
I'm
else.
over here doing this over here. I'm playing with you here. Ah.
we just found out since you mentioned Project Paperclip that somebody just told us that the UK had their own Project Paperclip, a different program. So the US had all their scientists and everything, stealing all the German scientists and bringing them over, but the UK also did the same thing.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, we're just as bad. We're in the same bucket of boats. Yeah.
So
It's
I
like
know that. Go ahead, Lee.
no, it's all right. I was just going to say our countries are very similar in a lot of ways. They're run the same way. We are suppressed in the same ways. We are led to believe the same things,
Yeah, and when
and
it comes to some of
tortured.
this anomalous stuff, it's like that throughout the world, where we're allowed to see what they want us to see, and anything we see that we're not supposed to, you're told you didn't see it.
Yep.
That's it. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. And I can't say their name. RP Skaza. I think
Yep, that's
many
it.
people take things for take for granted the beauty right over their heads. It's true. It's true. The thing with mobile phones is everybody's walking along now with their heads down.
Mm-hmm.
You see a mother pushing a pushchair and she's got her face
Yeah,
on her
Scott.
phone. Never looks in the
It's
sky.
there.
It's just crazy.
And
It's
and
getting
people
worse.
just don't
Well,
look up enough. I've
yeah.
tested that theory years and years ago. I was hiking up in the Smokies on a regular hiking trail. I decided to climb a tree just to the side of the trail and see how many people would actually notice me up there. Nobody did. Whole families, solo hikers, lots of people walked right by where I was at within, 10, 12 feet of them. They never looked up.
Yeah.
And
Right.
granted, some places you hike, you do want to look where you're stepping, but you want to see what's above you too. I could have been a big cat. I could have been a sniper.
Yeah.
I could have
Yeah.
been,
No
had an
spatial
ambulance ready to
awareness.
drop on. Nobody saw me. People are
Yeah.
very self-absorbed, but not self-aware. And you
Yeah.
got to have that awareness, especially out in the woods.
Oh,
Right.
God, blimey, yeah. Well, where you live, where you guys live over there, yeah. I mean, you got mountain lions and bears and all sorts of things. Over here, we have rabbits.
Rabbits.
Yeah, but they'll run from you, so it's all kinds. It's like you only look at them and say, "Come on, then," and they just hop away. It's fine.
They had
That's
the,
a-
Monty
that's a
Python had the
puka.
killer rabbit, though. that sort of-
The most dangerous animal we've got is the badger, and that only comes out at night anyway. And even if they knew you were around, they'd go off and hide anyway. So, and foxes would just be your mates as long as you give them food.
Yep.
You got to watch out for those
There
rabbits.
are
Though. Maybe one of
reports-
them might be a puka.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Or,
yeah.
right, lads, bunny for dinner. That's Holy Grail. That's Monty Python's Holy
Yeah.
Grail.
You gotta say
Killer
that,
rabbit.
love the Holy Grail. But now there have been
No, he's
reports of
vicious,
big
he's
cats over there,
vicious.
particularly on the moors. There were scattered reports of large black cats that aren't indigenous to the UK. What do you think that is, Lee? Do you think they're really big cats over there? They just
Nah, I
stay
mean,
well in
it's
the woods?
these people with more money than sense that decide I'm going to have a big cat, because like you guys over there with the tiger guy. We have people that have exotic animals here, and they've only got to get loose, and they're not exactly going to go and say, "Excuse me, Mr. Police Officer, I had an exotic animal illegally, and it seems to have escaped."
Yeah. Oops.
Oops.
Yeah,
Oh dear.
oops.
It's like, oh well, it's gone. I'm not going looking for that because it might be hungry.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, just like years and years ago, I was in Thailand and I was sitting at a street cafe having a cup of coffee, and an elephant just comes lumbering down the road, goes on by. Well, a few minutes later, a guy comes up on a little motorbike, they call him a mosquito bike. He said, "Have you seen an elephant?" And I said, "Was it an Indian elephant or an African elephant?" And he just looked at me and then took off on his bike. I pointed at
What?
the
What?
street,
I don't know that. Ah!
but does it matter? How many elephants have you seen this morning?
What is the average flight of a swallow? Which
Well,
do you mean, the South
they're
African or
used
the
for
European
beasts of
variety?
burden.
What? I don't know
They
that.
use them for uprooting trees and doing things like that. They're beasts of burden, but still, just to be sitting in a sidewalk cafe and see one going up the street was not something that happens every day.
No.
Yeah.
Oh look, there's an elephant.
Yeah,
It's
that's
just an
common.
It's just an elephant. It's fine. Nothing to see here.
But here in the U.S., we've always had big animals, but as civilization pushed them all out, or we hunted them down and eliminated them, or moved them up into a different territory. But now we're finding, even here where we live in Illinois, we're starting to see foxes and not foxes, but wolves come back in. We've had some black bears wander down from up north, and now we're actually starting to see big cats starting to come back, which were originally here in Illinois, but we kind of shoot them away, but they're starting to creep back in.
Lovely. How wonderful. I'm just going outside for a nice little picnic. Oh no, I'm not. There's a hungry cat.
Yeah.
It's
Lions
not your
and
average
tigers and
pussy.
bears
It's
unlike.
not. It's not your average cat. Nah.
But it started becoming like the ghost panther or ghost cougar. People once in a while would see one, everybody's like, that's just imagination. Or now it's like more and more people are starting to spot these animals on a more regular basis.
Yeah, that's scary. Like I said, that's the thing that scares me about it. Not to mention the fact you've got snakes, spiders. Over here we've got spiders, and we've got one snake, and that's the adder. And it can give you a nasty bite, and you have to go to the hospital and get a jab. But it's not like it's life threatening. You don't get bitten and have to got 10
It's
minutes
not
to get
like
to
in
the
Australia
hospital.
where there are so many things that can kill you there.
Yeah,
I
Yeah.
don't
yeah,
think
it's
we
like
have anybody from down
15,000
under
things
in
per
the
square
chat
foot.
tonight.
It's
Yeah.
like walking around like this, Australia. And
Let
that's in the
alone up in the
suburbs.
sky. Look at all the pterodactyls that people are starting to see. Now you got to worry about something coming out of the sky and grabbing you.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be nice, wouldn't it? That'd be lovely. Oh look, a pterodactyl.
Kind of like that old 70s TV show Land of the Lost, where they went through the portal and they're battling dinosaurs and flea stacks and stuff.
Yeah.
I think we're on the verge of that now.
Yeah,
And
it's
what
crazy.
cryptids have we not seen?
That's it. I mean, because
Dog Christmas,
being so many
Australia
of
is
us, and they
real.
know we've got, they see other animals being shot and killed. How do we know they're not clever enough to just know that I'm sticking away from them? You know, I mean, a lot of animals stay away from towns and cities, don't they? They wander in by
Yeah.
accident, like deer. I mean, deer, they'll stay out in the countryside. We've got thousands of deer, but you don't see them. Because they see or smell man, if they're upwind from smelling people or any other animal, they're gone. You wouldn't even see them.
And now
We've
you
had
have go ahead, Joe.
we've had Thunderbird reports here in Illinois, for a long time. I remember back in the 70s, a boy was supposedly grabbed by the shoulders and starting to get lifted up till his mother started throwing things and yelling at it and finally dropped the boy. But more and more we're seeing pterodactyls, thunderbirds, and even reports of dragons, real
Yeah,
dragons
dragons.
flying around. People are saying.
Hmm.
Yeah, there's footage, isn't there? But it's because of the advent of CGI, it really is a problem, isn't it? Because you don't know how to discern. Now, if the footage came from the 1950s and it can be authenticated as being from the 1950s and it's a dragon flight, it's only been since the advent of CGI, and that's what bothers me about
Right.
those sort of things.
CGI
because-
and now AI. And if you look
Yeah,
at what's
even worse
available on a
now.
consumer level, imagine what capabilities the military has when it comes to
Oh,
stuff like
absolutely.
Oh, yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly.
I mean, look at. You can go and watch a show now of Elvis Presley, all done with lasers, and he's on the stage. And look at they'll bring cameras, those special laser cameras, to a school or whatever, and sit you all in a gym hall, and then they'll have a whale come flying out of the water and
Right.
like it's splashing you,
Right.
like it's a pool. I mean, and it looks like it's right there. I mean, if they can do that, I suspect they could, make an aeroplane fly into a tower and then shoot it
Yeah.
with a laser or something, couldn't they?
Yeah.
It was only like 10,
Possibility.
15 years ago that they had Michael Jackson on stage, and it looked like it was actually
looked
him
like it's
on
Michael Jackson.
stage. And that
Yep.
was years ago. So
Yep.
how, they
So you think
probably
how-
have
you-
really mastered it now.
And what you got to think about is this. I've always said this to people. We have tablets and computers and things that a computer as a phone and all that. That's what the military would call throwaway technology. In other words, they're done with it. They don't need it. They don't need to keep it a secret anymore. You can have that. So if we've got that as civilians, they always claim that they're 50 to 100 years ahead of you. Now think about that. And that's why I'm always skeptical about the UFO being aliens and stuff, and why I think abductions may not exactly be aliens. How do you know? Look what the Russians used to do to people, and they keep them in the dark and not let them sleep, and they'd go mad and stuff. And with plastic surgery and augmentations, and how do you know they're not cloning people? And there's going to be clandestine groups. I don't care what anybody says. There's going to be multi-billionaires or trillionaires hiding away somewhere where they've got scientists that do things for them. It's the old Dr. Evil thing. You know what I mean? I mean, people have more money than sense, and you've only got to get the evil one that's wants to control everything and wants to be and is willing to pay for anything to get done. So how do we know that the alien thing isn't a clandestine group that experiments on people, does what they want to do with genetics and stuff because they're trying to find the elixir of life? Because the obsession of a lot of these people is longevity.
Yep.
Hmm.
And then if you look
And
into
so
things
I
like
often think, maybe they're using drugs that they've got to drug people and then take them away, then hypnotically ruin them, have people that are augmented, and say like kids, all the kids that go missing. How do you know that those children aren't augmented and brainwashed into doing things, and that they're programmed to do things? How do we know they haven't got chips in their heads or anything?
Like
you have to think, I think, a little bit more far-fetched than what you really want to.
the super soldiers. Have you ever
There you
seen
go.
a documentary here on YouTube, Madness on the Motorway, where they had the two very tall girls from, I think they were from Sweden or somewhere.
Yeah, I
They were
remember
out
that, and they were on the
flinging
motorway.
themselves into traffic.
Yeah,
And one of them got hit by a truck, broke her leg, and she's still
just
trying
got
to
straight
fight
back up.
police.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, this is what I was saying about you. I think you have to think a little bit more further fetched than you really want to think, because there only has to be that. If I can think that, I think it's possible. I think that's how the saying goes. If you can think it, it could be possible.
Yep. It just goes along with what we were saying before. I mean, everybody has different experiences. So maybe it is a 3-letter agency's project, or could it actually really be the thing that we're talking about? Could it be extraterrestrial? Could it be paranormal? I mean, you have to keep yourself open to all those possibilities.
Yeah. This the thing, and I think that's the thing. Having an open mind, the possibility. I'm not saying that's what it is. I'm not putting a nail on it and saying that's what I think. I just say I think that's a possibility, a definite possibility, that there could be a clandestine group or groups that clan together to use science and technology, advanced technologies that we're not allowed to have. To I mean, put it this way: the government is not allowed to go into places like Area 51 and stuff. Why? It's taxpayer. It's owned by the taxpayer, surely.
No.
So surely the taxpayer is allowed to send an officer in to audit the place.
Mm-hmm.
I don't understand that whole. Well,
Not
you're
gonna
not allowed in here. It's top secret.
And
Really?
there's places in the Grand Canyon where civilians are not allowed to visit. What did they find in the Grand Canyon? I've heard it's Egyptian artifacts.
Exactly.
Oh yeah.
Who
Yeah,
knows?
the Egyptian artifacts.
Yes.
Fascinating. Someone found a cave there once as well, didn't they? And they couldn't find it again. Okay, and that had hieroglyphics and stuff in it. And they filmed it with a drone, but then they couldn't find it again. I mean, you think how large the Grand Canyon is. Humongous.
Well, that area is fenced off for security guards also. Why?
Exactly. I mean, what exactly? If there's nothing to see there, nothing to see here. We
Right.
just put up a massive fence and we have guards.
Yeah.
There's nothing to see.
In
Honestly, go
Mojave,
away.
you have Kenny Veach, who went missing, who had found the M cave. If you wanted to go down that
Right.
rabbit hole, and
Yep.
there was evidence of something going on there, high radiation and things, and he went back to look for it. I think maybe it was either a third time, and then nobody's seen him since. So he was looking into something, and somebody didn't want him to know about.
Yeah, we followed that case for a while. It's like, oh my gosh, is this like rabbit hole after rabbit hole?
Yeah.
And there's a
Yeah.
lot of those out
Yeah.
there, rabbit holes. That is
One
things
thing
you
leads to another as well. This is what I
Yeah.
find. You start to. It's the same as us just opening a conversation about relatively unrelated things, and it all really is related. It's all part of the same thing, isn't it?
On our first episode here, we talked about the Betty and Barney Hill, the alleged abduction, and then we got a content thing that YouTube put on there explaining what abduction is or isn't in their terms. So, and I think it's Ted Branson said, "You guys are onto something here because you got a content."
Yeah.
Yeah.
They got you.
We're touching it, getting our thumb on
Yep.
Yeah.
A little too close. Back off a little bit.
It's like we're circling it, and then we
You're
just
not
got to
towing
dot
the
it.
official party line. So here's something to tell you how wrong you possibly are. That it's alleged and it's only circumstantial evidence, and tell that to
for them
people
to
that
say
have
that, like I
experienced
said,
these
that's an
things.
evasion, isn't it? To me,
Yeah.
anytime those disclaimer things are put on, especially if it comes from Google and YouTube, right? You know that there's something there that either their minds can't handle, right, because they're so frail, right, or it's a diversion tactic, and just absolutely stupid, just crazy.
I mean, just like your channel, Steve, the missing persons. I mean, there is so many aspects of that, whether it's paranormal, or whether it's alien, whether it's Bigfoot cryptid related, whether it's somebody just abducting and kidnapping people. And I mean, there's
Portals.
just so many avenues you can go down, just the missing people.
Yeah.
Right.
And I've had people ask me that. Is it Bigfoot? Is it UFOs? Is it the Fae? Is it portals? Is it the
Right.
government? Is it another government? The answer, yes. It's, I think,
All of the above.
all the above. In certain
Yeah.
cases, there's some that are just people being overconfident and ill prepared, and it's huge out there. People don't realize sometimes when you've got that vast of a national park, it's easy to go missing. But then there are cases that do have something supernatural, something otherworldly about, 'em, particularly where people just literally they were there one moment and gone the next.
And then you throw serial killers in the mix, So
Yep.
then it's like, okay, what is it,
Animal predation, human predation,
Right.
crimes of opportunity. There's a lot of bad things that can happen to you out there in the woods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I
sure is.
gotta tell you, my favorite stories though is like Crater Lake, when people are talking about how the lake talks to you and tries to lure you into the lake, when people drown. And people have talked about where they've been in a group and one person's just like feet away, and the next time you turn around, that person's gone.
Yeah, what's
Yeah.
that about? That is scary, isn't it? And
And
you're
then,
all in,
Yeah.
in single file kind of thing,
Yeah.
walking through a
Walking, and then they look around, and
yeah.
then the other person's just gone, and they'll see their footprints, and then the footprints just stop, and there's nowhere
Yeah.
they could have disappeared to. Recently on Missing Persons and Mysteries, I did a video about people last seen running into the woods. Now, some of that, it sounds like drug-induced psychosis or who knows what. But some of those, it makes no sense. And one of the theories I considered just in my own head, what if something's chasing them that nobody else can see?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. See, and this is the other thing I want to say about what if some of us are more inclined to see things and hear things than others.
Oh,
Say,
we
for instance,
absolutely
if
are.
you are the type of person that's totally dismissive of everything, you think it's all a load of crap, we're all a bunch of Fruit Loops, right? But there are people that think that, right? So that's fine. That's fine. That's up to them. But what about the people that do see things and don't necessarily go shouting about it or want any medals for doing it? I wouldn't go and hold a conference because I've seen 7 anomalous objects, and that I videoed one or two, kind of thing, right? So why are some people so dismissive of it? I think a lot of it is because they're too scared to face that possibility.
Yeah.
That life
They
already
just
is
want to turn
difficult
a
enough
blind
for
eye
them.
and say, no, that can't happen.
Yeah.
Yet it does.
Yeah.
I've got a whole book of experiences that I've had, and that's just in the first book.
Yeah.
From early childhood, I've seen and experienced things. And for somebody to come to me and say, oh, that didn't happen, or it didn't, no, I was there. I know what I saw. I know what I heard. I know what I felt.
Mm-hmm.
And, but I think it's been attributed to Einstein. I'm not sure who said it, but it said that some people see miracles every day and other people never see a miracle. So again, I think a lot of that's in your intent, and you can choose to turn a blind eye.
I
to things
truly
and
believe
ignore
that. I
things.
truly believe that if you are willing to be open, then you will perceive more. Just in general openness, in willingness.
There's a guy
willingness to
written a
want to
book
know.
about that. I can't remember the gentleman's name, but it's a CE5, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind,
Yeah,
where he
Greer.
talks about putting the
The intent
meditation,
out.
the thing out there, and you can draw these things to you. You can have an experience, according to his writings, through how you behave toward them, if you
Well,
will.
what's to say that's not a real thing, right? Because I mean, just in general, let's talk on a basic level. When you're nice to someone, what is the response? When you're nice to someone, the response is usually they're nice back.
Positive.
When
Yeah,
you're
okay.
nasty
Right.
to
I'm
someone,
sure
what
where
is
you're
the
going with it.
response?
The
They're going to
same
be
way.
nasty back.
Yeah.
There you go. Right. So as simple as that is, but say now, put it on an expansive way of thinking. If you're giving out positive vibrations to the universe, kind of thing, would you think that would be you would get the reflection of positive energies, kind of thing, coming back? This is why Why do people always talk about karma? You know, what is karma? Well,
Right.
karma is just energy again, isn't it? So if you're talking,
Yep.
a thought sends out a signal, because we are run by electricity, aren't we? It may be very small, but we're run by electricity, and when we give out signals, that's why sometimes you'll have your head in a certain position, and you'll think to yourself, "I'm dying for a cup of coffee," and someone would look up and say, "Do you want a cup of coffee?"
Mm-hmm.
Right? Those simple connections that we all have, and we've all done it. We all do it, or like someone will phone up, and for some reason you'll know who it is who's phoning, and without
Yep.
seeing a name. I'm talking about the
Or
older days
you'll
with a
think about somebody that you haven't seen in years,
yep,
and then
and
they'll
then they'll
call you.
appear.
Yep.
Yeah.
They'll show up.
Right now, is that intent? And that's what I'm saying. Did you intentionally, by having that thought, send out a signal that they pick up, that they don't even understand that they've picked up, that they then have the thought in their head, Lee, for instance,
Yeah.
and then
And,
cool.
My wife
And
Nicole and I
is
do
that
that
the
all the
same for
time.
the universe? So,
Something will pop into my head just totally out of the blue, and I'll
Yep.
mention it. She say, "I was just thinking of that."
yeah,
Right.
Yeah,
and we
same
all
with
do that.
us.
Often.
And that's what I'm saying. You all do that, and the closer you are as people, you get that more. If you notice,
Yeah.
so like in a
Yep,
relationship,
we do that all
even
the
if it's
time
a close
also.
friend, yeah, the closer you are as people, the more you get that. Now, if we're being suppressed by all these drugs and stuff they put in the food to crust up the old pineal gland, how do we know when that's not crusted over? How do we know that we haven't got total connection with each other?
Yeah.
You know, and the
Right.
same as
And I
to the
think we did
universe
have
too,
at
because
one
we are all
time,
part of that universe.
and that
We're not
scared them.
we're
That
not
hive
individual.
mind, that
Yeah,
being of a like mind, that scares the whoever's in charge of the powers that be, or shadow,
yeah,
or whatever you want to call it.
because they have a sick mind and they're worried about people seeing into who they really are. That's what that is. That's a
I mean,
fear
you
of
can
knowing.
even take that general, I don't know, general theory to like you talked about the Barney and Betty. He had a really bad experience and she had a great experience. She's always said that she would love to go flying in a UFO and experience that. And that's what happened to her. That's what her memory is.
Yeah.
Yep.
Whereas Barney had a bad experience and he's always been scared of aliens and ETs. So, I
Yeah.
There you
mean,
go.
They
There you
even
go.
showed her the star chart and things that she read or described under hypnosis, and that
Yep.
somebody drew.
Which
So
was
yeah,
later
it's
discovered as Zeta Reticuli, same as the Bob Lazar thing, and
yeah.
many other stories that have come across and said that before it was all a big thing. You
so
know,
do we manifest ourselves, these experiences when we put those thoughts out there, that, hey, I'd like to experience an extraterrestrial or UFO and have a great time and go explore? Or do I manifest them being mean to me and experiments? And, am I afraid of that? Is that what I'm putting out?
yeah, I think a lot of it is to do with intent. I do
Yeah.
believe that, because I totally believe in. I mean, it's a bit class is a bit woo woo, but I totally believe that if you give out the right vibrational attitude kind of thing, and like I said, because people don't like to say we're spiritual bit, but I truly believe there is some connection to the everything, because
Yeah.
we are part
there,
of
there
that
are
everything.
places,
Our
certain
atoms,
places where it's
our whole
stronger.
makeup is part of that universe.
Somebody
Everything
in
about
the
us was
chat
created
here,
in a bloody star, for instance. You know, we
yeah,
we came from the explosion of a star.
mhm,
You know, and we have those elements. We are made up of all the elements that everything else in the universe is made up of.
yeah.
So, we have metal running in our head in a row. Yeah, I mean, it's
And
crazy.
I had a teacher or professor in college showed an explanation of that one time. He took all the ingredients that make up a frog, and he also had a frog, a deceased one, and he put both in the blender and mixed it up, and it did look identical. And he said, "Now, why can't this is exactly the same amount of the same stuff? Why can't I take this and make a frog? Because it's that spark, that moment, that you will, the spark of creation there." And then we're the same way. And places you talk about Crater Lake. Somebody in the chat here just mentioned Mount Shasta. Just trying
Yeah.
to, I've been up there. That place is it's an entity unto itself. I believe. I still smoked at the time. I went out about 2 o'clock in the morning to have a cigarette. felt like somebody watching me. You ever get that feeling, when you're
Yeah.
being
Oh
watched?
yeah.
And I spun around to try to catch where it was, and it was Mount Shasta there. The mountain was watching me. And
Yeah.
I saw lights up on the mountain. I mean, these are just look like glowing orbs, but they would have had to been the size of jetliners, just circling around up there. I interviewed a
Yeah, but
young
they seem
lady.
to go into the mountain
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
come out of the mountain, and they're not going behind it. That it's right in front of you, and it's going into the mountain.
And the mountain,
Oh,
it
yeah.
doesn't
Wow.
even look real with those lenticular clouds and things. It looked like a Bob Ross painting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Come to life. And I interviewed a
Oh,
young
Bob
lady that
Ross.
lived in Texas that started feeling a pull to Mount Shasta. She gave up everything, bought outdoor and survival equipment, went up to Mount Shasta and lived on the slopes in a tent for months just because she felt drawn there. And she met creatures. She called them tree people, but it's what we know as Sasquatch or Bigfoot. There's a lot of energy up there and a lot of activity. And there's kind of a line up that I-5 corridor there, Mount Shasta, Crater Lake, on up Mount Rainier, Olympic National Park and National Forest. It's almost like the ley lines like you have there, Lee. You can draw a line really from the Southwest, New Mexico, Arizona, that area, all the way up the West Coast where there's anomalous things happen.
Well,
That's
I
what
mean,
I
the
was
whole-
going to mention. I was going to wonder, how many of these anomalies, whether it's Skinwalker Ranch, Mount Shasta, how many of these are actually connected to ley lines or even underground quartz veins, and,
Right.
and there's natural vortexes where all these things cross, and it's just crazy.
like Stonehenge and all the pyramids and everything being on that same kind of line. It's like that. That's a strange.
It's a global.
That's
It's a global thing.
strange
You have
thing.
to
It's
step
definitely a
back
global
and
phenomenon.
look at the big picture.
All these crazy things. That's why you can't. It's no different to live, in Egypt than it is to live in the States or in England. There's things that go on everywhere.
Yeah.
That
And
everybody's
Lee,
got
you
a
and I
story
talked
to
about
tell.
that the other night backstage. We don't believe the pyramids was built by a bunch of guys with
No, absolutely
poles,
impossible.
and lifting things into place. They had help there. I
Yeah,
spoke
they
at a
did.
UFO conference in San Francisco a couple of years ago, and that was the thing I talked about. I drew a correlation between missing people and abductions, but one of the things I touched on was the pyramids. You have them in Egypt, and then you have them in a lot of places just out in the woods. You have them in South America, Mexico,
In the
things
Amazon
like that.
jungle, they're out there as well.
They're not as
hidden away.
grand, but if you think about that, if a bunch of people were out there trying to build a pyramid and then they just suddenly disappeared, your natural response would be, well, we were trying to build this and we ended up here. Let's try to build it again and see if we get sent back. And I likened it to cargo cults and all kinds of things. But I think there's a sympathetic magic there too, something that even it talks about in the Bible when they were trying to build the Tower of Babylon, that God scattered them and confused their language. Well, again, there you go. We're trying to build this thing, and it probably was a pyramid. I don't know. A tower could be anything. And then suddenly they're in the jungle or in Peru or wherever. Well, we're trying to build that, and here we are. Let's try to build it and see if we go back. And then you have the Sasquatch that do the things with the trees, the pyramid shapes in the trees and things.
Yeah.
So I think they may be stranded here like a cargo cult. They're trying to call back whatever was there that brought them there.
We were just talking to somebody about that very subject, about how, either the pyramids were designed and built by extraterrestrial technology that they could levitate and use tractor beams or whatever to place these giant stones, or was it the giants that were in there at the time and able to lift those blocks just like we'd lift cinder blocks for human size? Would those blocks be perfect for giants to lift up and put in place?
Well, this is the thing I've always said. No matter what, there's engineers that are around today, and we have incredibly massive machinery that can do all sorts of crazy things, but they couldn't build a pyramid.
Right.
We have GPS, and they can't build a pyramid.
Yeah.
And yet those things are true north. They point true north, and they're
north.
such a slight degree off because they think, you know, that a meteor hit the Earth or whatever and slightly tilted it and stuff. I'm not really even buying that though.
Yeah.
You know, so
And what about that guy in Florida in Homestead, Coral Castle? If anybody's ever
Yes.
yeah,
been
built
there,
his
never
own
seen that,
stuff and
Yeah.
said he discovered the
he
secrets of the.
worked in
the
there
thing.
alone and moved thousands of
He was
tons
my
of coral
size.
and things,
Mm-hmm.
He was my
and
size,
claimed that
5'3",
he had
and built like
discovered.
a twig.
Yeah, he discovered the secrets of the pyramids. He's got a door there that's balanced. A child can move it with their finger. It's
Right.
so perfectly balanced, but it weighs thousands of pounds. He was on to something like people like Nikola Tesla, that knew these things and they had to be silenced.
The story I like best about the Coral Castle is when the guy brought the big block of coral to him on the back of a trailer truck, and he backed it up, and it was just that little guy there,
Yeah.
to unload it.
And
And the guy goes,
made the guy
this?
stay in his lorry, didn't he? And
He
covered up the lorry
told him to
cab.
go ahead. He told the truck driver to go ahead and go over there somewhere and get something
Yeah,
for him. And when
that's
the guy came back, that stone was unloaded off of that truck.
Yeah. and he didn't see any machinery or nothing.
Nope.
That's like I said. There's more going on than you understand. And I don't think they had that kind of technology back then. I mean, like I said, they couldn't cut those stones with bronze.
Right.
You know, bronze would dull the moment it even hit a bit of rock. You know, even if it is limestone. You know, no, it's just not.
Then
happening.
late at night, people would say they would see like an energy light or sparks and blue haze over that area where he was working late at night by himself. So, I mean, what kind of technology was that? When you go there during the day, all he had was blocks and chains and, tripods and pulleys. So, like, no, you didn't move this great big giant thing.
I think he did that to steer people away. I think
That was a sign.
to
Here's
make
what I
people
did it
think,
with.
yeah, make people think he did it with that when actually he's using something else, a high piece of technology or something.
We had a question here. Conundrum wants to know: has anybody ever visited the pyramids?
Hello,
I
Will.
haven't visited the ones
I have
in
not.
Egypt.
I have.
Not
I wish I
us.
could.
I would love to, but
I'd visit every single pyramid I possibly could, the planet wide. Honestly,
Yeah.
if I had finances.
We're thinking maybe this year, though, we might go down to Cahokia, Illinois, where the big mound is. So that's
the
close by. That's only
Serpent
like
Mound,
3
I think.
hours from us.
Is that Serpent Mound or is that a different one?
No, it's a whole different, not Serpent Mound. It's Cahokia Mounds. It's one of the biggest civilizations in our hemisphere anyway. Supposedly they had a big, massive civilization.
I'm really intrigued by the one that they won't let people talk about in China. Is it China? The biggest pyramid they know to exist, and it's in China,
yeah.
covered up by grass, isn't it? And
Yep.
and it's
Yeah.
like they deny it's even anything there. And
It's a mountain.
Quite obvious. Yeah, it's a mountain. Yeah, it's a mountain with perfectly flat and square edges. Yeah, absolutely. Totally. We believe you, CCP.
Nothing to see here.
Our,
Nothing to see here.
good
Move
friend,
along.
Jim
Yeah.
Goodall.
Yeah.
If you guys know who Jim Goodall is, our good friend Jim Goodall got an expedition that has the rights to a hidden temple and a complex in Belize, and they're getting ready to excavate it and uncover it and map it out.
Amazing.
Yeah, conundrum. I agree. There is the hydrogen, not hydrogen driven maybe power stations, because there's evidence of water punching against the top of the bottom of the pyramid, in the thing under there, and it seems to me that the water used to rush in, and that the energy of the smacking against it caused something. I don't know how they captured the energy or whatever, but there's something strange about the whole thing, and I have kind of an idea that when they were covered with whatever they say they were covered in limestone, but we don't know. I mean, they could have had photosensitive coverings, that collected sunlight for all we know. We just don't. You don't know. There's not enough evidence really to really say what was covering them. It's
They're
just
starting to
hearsay.
come up with the theories, though, where the pyramids or these temples might have been even almost like a nuclear reactor.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. And maybe, and the reason why there's a lot of scorched earth near them, and the glass, where it turns the I can't remember what they call it now, whether it turns the sand to glass, is because these things that they did too many of them, and it just had a nuclear reaction and exploded, and that's what killed off a lot of the civilization that was there that built them. That's why there's no evidence of them.
No, that's a good theory.
It's a possibility, isn't it? It's a
Yeah,
theory.
yeah.
It's a theory as good as any other.
As good as any I've heard.
Yeah. And what about the stories as well? Like you said, Steve, about the giants, about them basically searching them down because they classed them as gods or whatever. But we were supposed to be created to, like someone said in the crowd earlier, to collect gold. And I think it was ancient Sumeria that was the first idea of that, like where money came into it. Because before that, we were just bartering with things, and people would give you things that you need, and to receive things they needed. So say if you needed something to cover your skin, and you needed a wolf skin or whatever, you would trade, a chicken or something like. Do you know what I mean? And then the gods from heavens came, or whatever. I can't remember what the saying goes now, but in ancient Sumeria, I'm pretty sure it is. And then all of a sudden, there's the idea of exchanging gold for things. Yeah, and that became a thing, and then that's where money really started. The idea of money started. The exchanging of a metal tinder disc kind of thing or whatever for an item, rather, and that metal.
That's interesting if you think about it, because you can't eat gold. I mean, there's things you can do with it. You can make jewelry, you can wear it, you can do things, but
it's
as
inert,
far as
isn't it?
that, but being traded or bartered for food or clothing and things like that, that's such an odd concept when you stop and
it's
think
very,
about
very odd concept when you think something is really worth something. So, like I said, I want to keep warm, you want to eat. That's a very simple concept, isn't it?
Yeah.
I need something to cover my skin because I'm cold. You need something because you haven't eaten for 2 days and I have chickens.
Yeah, so I'll trade you the wolf skin for the chicken. The gold doesn't come into that equation anywhere.
There you go. And to each there is no concept of, well, that skin's worth more because I had to go and hunt it and blah 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 blah. But that chicken's worth more because I had to raise it and feed it, right? There's no concept of that. It was just that your need and my need, and share.
Yeah, it was a true bartering economy before currency was introduced, and then setting the value of the weights and measurements.
And now we see power in a piece of paper.
Mm-hmm. And that's fiat currency. There's not even anything to back it up anymore.
Exactly. There's not even real. It's a promissory note.
Yeah,
it's a promissory note. I promise to pay the bearer. Well, you promise to pay me with what? Thin air? Because that's all it's really worth.
Mm-hmm.
It's not even owned by you.
I see an Isaac comment in there. Says he's filled like he's known me for eons. I don't know if I've been around that long, or if maybe I've had past lives, or I don't know.
Aww.
Aw. That's nice.
That's because you look like Gandalf.
Oh,
Gandalf the Grey. You shall not pass.
I got a special staff being carved right now by a wood carver that we've got to know, and I got that coming, and I got a nice long Gandalf pipe coming in the mail too.
Yeah.
So you might see a Gandalf on screen one of these days.
I have a Gandalf stick.
I like that stick. Oh, wow. I love that. Oh, wow. The character of it on top. Oh, beautiful.
It is perfect for the hand.
Yes.
It's just something I grab to walk with, really.
Beautiful.
But your hand rests on it absolutely perfectly. It cups your hand.
It's ergonomic.
It's ergonomic. Exactly that. It's ergonomic. Look at you. You've been eating that dictionary again. What have I told you about that, Mr. Stockton?
Can't help it. I love words. I love the written word, and try to learn some new words as often as
Mr.
possible.
Powers? I love words. Isn't that weird?
Yep. Gerald just needs a wizard hat.
Yep.
That's
Give
it.
him a
Yeah.
pointy hat and a cloak,
Yeah.
maybe, and a robe.
Geralt the Great.
Yeah. Our chat teases them. Yeah. Our chat calls him Gandalf when we have our shows. Yeah, everybody
They
likes
do
to call
call
him
me
Gandalf.
Gandalf.
Or the
Yeah.
albino puckwudgie.
They just call me annoying.
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 Well, we've run through an hour here, but before we go, uh, Gerald, if you've got a story you'd like to tell, but there's one Jane told on my radio show that I'd like her to talk about. It's where she was playing with a pitch pipe, I think it was, and started talking through it, and something talked back. Would you favor us with that story, please, Jane?
Sure, I love to. These last couple of years, I've just been experimenting with all kinds of different instruments. I mean, it started out with handpan, Native American flutes. Then I kind of got into tuning forks, tuning pipes, singing bowls. So last year, I came across it's a necklace, just like this, but it has a little pitch pipe in it. So it's a necklace, but it's a 528 hertz whistle. And so I ended up getting it, and it does help with meditation. You breathe in with your nose and blow out. So I'm playing with this in the backyard, and I went, huh. Well, I know that the old days before we had electronics, you would tune your guitar with a pitch pipe. And so I went on Amazon and I got one of these old pitch pipes for guitar. And there's also one for a violin. A violin has 4 different pitch pipes on it. So then I got
432 hertz.
I got this round one that choir directors use before they do a song.
Wow.
So I'm in the backyard and I'm having fun with this little thing. Blowing 2 of them. It almost sounds like you're opening up a portal. And so then I'm in the backyard going, I'm saying hello in it, in all different tones. And I'm laughing and giggling to myself, just having fun talking in this instrument. Well, then the next night, it's 1:00 in the morning, and I'm out in the backyard, and I like to close my eyes and just listen to the sounds in my neighborhood. I heard audible, hello, and it sounded like a alien or a robot, and it startled me, and I actually went inside, and we went to bed right away. But telepathy, I just heard something in my mind going, well, that's what you said, and that's what you sounded like the night before. And I just went, oh my gosh, I did sound exactly like that robot. So to this day, I don't know if they recorded me, if they mimicked me, if I really don't know, but it was the first time I heard anything audible come out and actually say hello, but it sounded identical to what I was doing in this pitch pipe.
And then I shared a similar story where my nephew, when he was small, was at his mother's house, his maternal grandmother. She had a box fan in the window, and he was talking into the fan. I think we've all done
Yes,
that.
similar.
And he was just talking a bunch of gobbledygook. Well, I think it was later that night or maybe the next night, he was sleeping in the front room and heard something outside answering him from what he had been saying through the fan previously. And it sounded like they were talking through a fan. There was nobody around. That fan had been shut off for the night, but it was like something had heard that and mimicked back, or it caught its attention. And I think that's what you did. You hit that right frequency, and they were able to pick it up and hear it. And they, okay, we can hear you. Let's see if you can hear us. And they answered you back. But and you said at the time that there's not a lot of stuff that'll run you back in the house, but that one did.
Yeah, I normally do not get spooked. I mean, I've seen strange, like a white dog, which I still don't know if it was a white dog. It could have been a cryptid creature, but I got up and started chasing after it to see, where it went. I normally am not spooked, but 1:00 in the morning when it's so quiet, hearing an audible voice, that definitely spooked me because it sounded like a robot or an alien.
They're saying in the chat, could it have been a bird? But you wouldn't have heard that at night. You wouldn't have heard
No,
that
this
at 1:00
was
in the morning.
actually a hello. It sounded identical to what I'm using with that pitch pipe. It said hello, and it sounded like a little robot.
I wish I could tune everything that I've got to 432, and it really annoys me that they don't give you the event. I mean, I have a piano here, and I am really annoyed that you can't, because I have all my own instruments in house, so I have really no need for 440. I don't have to
Exactly.
be the same concert pitch. I'm not going to go and join a concert. I'm not going to be part of a quartet or part of this or part of, you know what I mean, or part of the
Right.
industry's thing.
Mm-hmm.
I can be completely autonomous because I have my own set of instruments. So the fact that I can't tune my digital piano to 432 is disturbing to me,
Right.
because I could tune my guitars if I want to
Mm-hmm.
432, but I can't do that with my piano. There's some reason that, because if you have a look, I don't know if you guys know about the soundboards that
Yes.
you put sand on them, and you
Yep.
put different frequencies through them, and you get different patterns, don't you? Same
Mm-hmm.
as we do with snowflakes. Now, that's why I believe that snowflakes show you the different frequencies that are out, that are in
Oh,
the
wow. I never even
in the
thought of that.
atmosphere. Well, because every single snowflake is different, isn't it?
Yes.
Right? That's got to be a vibrationary state, isn't it? Right?
Wow.
So, like you, I'm into my sound, and I don't
Mm-hmm.
understand it as fully as someone else who's I'm a sound engineer, but I'm self-taught on every level with everything I do. So I'm always on the learning curve, but I know how I feel when I hear something at 432 and how I feel at 440.
Yeah.
440,
Right.
I feel shut off, that I have to do more to enjoy it. Whereas 432, it's just enjoyable straight away.
Mm-hmm.
It's a strange thing.
Yeah.
There's no way of actually explaining what you mean by it
And I've heard pop
until
Right.
songs where they take them and tune them to that. It has a totally different listening experience, even though it's the same song.
Yep,
Yes.
and it's true, mate, because it's the vibrationary frequency that we vibrate at, and that's what it is, and that's why they changed it. They gave the excuse, it's so that everybody across the world could all work with each other, because everybody was using different tunings. Okay, so they thought, well, we'd align it, and rather than use the one that they know, you can't tell me they didn't know, they knew. They knew
Mm-hmm.
that 432 was the optimal one, which it is,
Yep.
to align with the way our brain works, the way our physiology vibrates, and it's healing, right? The same as 542. Is it 542?
It's
Whatever it is.
528 and 432 are
528.
the
That's the one.
yeah,
Yeah.
528 and 432 are the big most
The
popular
two
healing ones. Yes.
major ones that
Mm-hmm.
are good for us for brain waves and for thinking and our emotional state, and for
DNA fixing.
DNA
Mm-hmm.
fixes and stuff, right?
Mhm.
And that's a true known thing. That is a known thing. And I mean, the guy that found out that he could cure cancers with sound vibrations soon got
Yes.
taken down, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Can't
Yeah,
be
I heard
having
that
that,
with
can you?
singing bowls.
What,
Yeah.
doing it just with sound? What, healing someone with
Mm-hmm.
sound? But what about
That-
our pharmaceutical companies? Well, not
Yeah.
making any money.
Exactly.
And what gets me, the people that originally made those bowls in Tibet or wherever, how did they know what to tune
They,
that to? They didn't have
there you go,
electronics
because
or
they
anything.
felt it. It was a
Yeah.
feeling
Yes.
rather than a knowledge. You just knew. And then later they discovered that actual that actual hertz is 432 or 528. You
Right.
know, that's how they discovered that that's what it was, because, like you said, with the singing bowls, as soon as you can feel it, and even
Mm-hmm.
through a microphone from a channel, you can feel it. It vibrates your inner ear. It vibrates
Yes.
your whole, and it's like a fuzz feeling that you get over your entirety. It's the
You
same
can
with,
feel a tuning fork a little bit on your body,
yes,
but when you have
yeah,
a singing bowl, I have
yeah,
large singing bowls.
yeah. It
When I put a
vibrates your
large
whole
singing
body.
bowl, your whole body feels that vibration a lot
Yeah,
more so than a tuning
yeah.
fork. But if you
I,
can't afford a singing bowl, you can afford a tuning fork, and
yeah,
it
yeah.
will still help you.
Like I say, I think that the powers that be, the ones that don't want us being in touch with existence, because I think that's what it
The
is.
Mm.
I
the
think that's
interesting
why
thing though is,
they
Lee, is
tuned it
like you
off.
being over the UK, all your cathedrals at one time were
Mm-hmm.
designed
Yep.
for healing
Yep.
and
Yes.
and for the resonance of the human body.
Yep.
Well,
Yep.
now
Mm-hmm.
they've changed all even the Christian music or anything in the churches and the cathedrals. So
Yep.
now once we're at 440, that temple does not do what it was intended to do.
Exactly that. And
Yep.
I've said this for absolute years, that it doesn't give you the emotional response that it used to give you.
Exactly.
Music doesn't give you the emotion that it used to give you. Now it's more like I tell you who cheat, right? It's the industry. The reason why a lot of people buy people's music is because they've changed the frequencies to be more suited towards people liking it.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you can't help but like a lot of these things. Other things, you're just hearing sound. I mean, I write music, so of course I'd love people to enjoy my music more, and that I'm sure that if I was producing it in 432, I'd have a great great deal more success. I'm not talking about financially. I'm talking about people's enjoyment of it. You know, people's liking of it. I'm sure to say. That's why I'm so annoyed that I can't tune my piano to 432. I'm sure you
Right.
could a real
I-
piano, because obviously
If
it's
you
just
ever
down
heard
to
of Todd
tuning.
Rundgren, he did a whole album that was all about trying to heal the physical body and your mental state just by music. And he changed the frequencies and the vibrations of his music just for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, that's what I do. That's what I'm saying.
I don't think you can get that album no more. I think they got rid of it. I think
I'll bet they
Of
did.
course.
Oh my gosh.
It's no
Yeah.
different to the hydrogen engine. It's been invented about 6 times, and each time, certain industries have grabbed the patent, got rid of the patent, bought the patent, burnt the patent. Right, because they'd rather have these other things because they can't have everybody having something they could just get for free. You know, go to the ocean, get a cup full of water, and that powers your vehicle for a year.
right.
You know, it's crazy. We could just go on and on and on and on and on.
Oh yeah.
We haven't even scratched the surface of everything. That
Not
we
even,
could talk
I
about.
know.
not even a smidgen. Not even an atom's worth of
Yeah.
thing have we got.
We have been all over the road and all over the sky here tonight. But before we part, Gerald, did you have something similar to Jane's experience? Maybe an anomalous thing that you'd like to share that you've experienced personally?
The only thing that I really have, and I think we told it last time on your radio show, was that when I was a kid, I was in my crib, which like Jane has talked about it as growing up in that age that they left you in your crib longer than normal. We didn't have the switch over
Right.
to a kiddie bed or anything. You stayed in your crib.
Yeah,
It was a
they were
5-year crib.
5-year cribs. Yeah, they were 5-year cribs. They were our toddler beds. We just lowered, the railing down, and we used them for 5 years.
And I remember being in my crib and mom and dad were in their bed sleeping, and whether it was a dream or I was still awake, I don't really know. But my hand went through the railings or the slats of the railings that kept you in the crib, and something grabbed my hand. And it was just holding my hand. And when I worked my way over to the edge and looked down over the mattress and towards the floor, there was a little tiny gesture, and they had the complete outfit, just like you'd see in a medieval movie or whatever. It had the little hat with the jingle balls coming off of it and the stripes and the nice furry cuffs and everything. And I didn't feel any evil presence or anything, and we didn't really communicate that I can remember, but I didn't feel an evil presence. But then all of a sudden, I don't know if I snapped out of it or if I was in a trance, or then I started crying. Just all of a sudden, I just started crying. I don't know why that came over me. And then mom came and picked me up, and I couldn't communicate at the time of what I saw or what I experienced. And she never asked or anything. She just assumed I had a nightmare or I was a fussy kid. And that was it. But I can still see that image in my mind to this day.
That is indeed very creepy, but very almost poignant too. That's a little gesture in there. It's almost like it was comforting you, whatnot, like it'll be okay.
Yeah. Like I said, I didn't feel
maybe
any
when it
evil
left,
off
then
of
you
it.
cried because you wanted to be friends with it. Who knows?
So we don't know if it was
Yeah.
a screen memory, if he actually saw a jester, or if it was a screen memory. It's just
I'm
interesting.
guessing at that age, you probably had no real knowledge of what a gesture was or what it represented until later
Right.
in life. That
Right.
okay, that's the thing that I saw in my crib.
Plus
Yep.
the
That's
innocence of the innocence we haven't been, as a child, you haven't been gotten to yet, if you know what I mean, by the
Yeah.
by the understanding of the world and by the suppressions and by the food and all the other things that switch you off. Because
Right.
I just do believe we are switched off on purpose. You know, we are purposefully disconnected. Sorry, that's a better way of
So I don't know
expressing
if
it.
that was an ET, Fae, a little people that was projecting that image, so I'd feel more comfortable or friendly, or I don't know. I
Yeah.
still don't have those answers.
But having an open mind about it is better than saying I think it was aliens. You know, you're not jumping to a conclusion
Right.
and saying that you know what it is. You're expressing the fact that, you know, I'm just as confused as anybody that I tell this story to, and that's the same as me from what I've seen. You know, I wouldn't jump straight to aliens, although it's bloody intriguing. Like the major one, like I said, the one I always talk to people about this one. I didn't tell you about this one earlier. Another time when I'm fishing, and I'm fishing with a friend, and we're in mid conversation, and I'm looking at the end of my rod, waiting for it to tap, right? And I'm looking up, and this massive white orb came across my head, and if I put my hands in the air, it'd be about the size of a basketball. And it was this liquidy light moving inside a ball, but it wasn't illuminating, so it wasn't expressing light like, you know, a lamp would. And I'm calling my friend, and we were literally talking, you know, not 10 seconds before that. Lance, look at this. Lance, look at this. And he's not answering me. I'm like, what's going on? So I'm looking at this thing, and I'll slowly walk over towards where his bivvy is. You know what a bivvy is? It's a half tent that you sit under to fish. And he's no more than 20 feet away from me. And I'm edging over to him, and I'm still looking at this thing. This is nuts. And I'm not frozen. I'm just like, really, whoa, look at this. And I've gone up to his bivvy, and I've hit his bivvy, and he's gone, what? And as soon as he's gone, what? I've looked at him and goes, look at that, mate. And I look back, and it's gone. The frustration is just immense. To this day, I am so seething with, because why was all of a sudden he not with me when not 10 seconds before we were deep in conversation? And he wasn't showing signs in his voice of being tired. You know, when you answer someone and you're kind of tired or whatever. He wasn't doing that. We were in proper articulated conversation, like we're having right now. And then next thing, as soon as I see this thing, just as a hypothesis, did it come across, freeze him, grab me, do its little thing on me or whatever it wanted to do, pop me back, yeah? And then what I saw was it leaving. You know what I mean?
Wow.
It's a hypothesis, so it's not me saying, I'm not saying it was aliens, but it was aliens. Yeah, it's just nuts. It's just so infuriating when, you know, that was real massive evidence, you know, and all I've got now is to tell everybody is that I've seen this thing. And then, like I said, I videoed one exactly similar in the sky that came across my house, and I was very fortunate to be able to you know, get it on film. And again, I know my flight paths around my own house. I know even when and helicopters, when they come across, they are loud, and it echoes right the way through our estate. So it's, you know, super loud. So is a drone, very loud. It echoes through our place. And so this thing, and like I've said this before, if it was the anomaly I've seen, that I've got video footage of, if it was a drone, like a police drone, it'd have had flashing green and red light on it, because they're very legal and everything like that. If it was a drug dealer doing a drug deal with using a drone, I don't think he'd have a bright white light on it, do you?
No.
And the other thing about this anomaly is it didn't emit light, again, the same as that massive orb that I saw come across my head. But when I'm videoing this thing, you can see the street lights are flaring. You know, the light is flaring, but this thing isn't. That just, the only thing that's odd about it is when I zoom in, it goes into a triangle. But that's because of the aperture of the camera that I've got. You see. You know, so that basically it's got one of those shutters that opens and closes as a diamond. You know what I mean?
Right.
As opposed to a hexagon or whatever. You know, that the eye. That's the aperture, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, so I had to keep zooming out to make sure, you see the actual shape of it rather than, a diamond shape, because people say, "Oh, look, it's a diamond." No, it's not a diamond. That's the aperture of the camera. And there's a lot of that going around, isn't there, Mr. Corbell? But anyway, yeah, you've got so much footage, haven't you? Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's something to think about. And as Ted Branson suggests, maybe your fish there, maybe he wasn't meant to see it.
Right.
Yeah, mate, that's what
Just
I'm
for you.
saying. That's it.
Mhm.
Maybe it was a me thing. Me.
Yep.
What a narcissist. So my narcissism, I can blame now quite happily on UFOs.
There you go. Well, folks, we ran out of time of almost a half an hour ago, but Jane,
Thanks,
Errol, I
everybody.
want to thank you for joining us. I want to thank everybody in the chat and the people watching this in the future. Send us some lottery numbers, or
Yes,
maybe we
future
can send
people.
you some. But
Yeah, that's
again,
been a
thank you
great
guys
time.
for
We're
being here.
glad you had us, Steve.
Yeah, tell us where we can find you on YouTube. You got your channel names there. I'll leave links in the show
Hey,
notes.
Yeah, you can find us at Midwest Night Watchers, whether on Facebook or YouTube, Rumble. I mean, we have it all across this. We have our same name across all the social platforms, and you can reach out to us at Midwest Night Watchers at gmail.com if you have stories or anything you want to tell us. And Jane has her music channel.
Yep, I've got Chiro sounds that I just have a wide variety of musical instruments. I try to raise vibration and frequency. I don't go live and do concerts or anything like that. I just pretty much I upload videos and just feel free to check it out. I just have a huge variety of instruments that I like to play around with.
You had a video over there the other day with a hand drum and a flute that was just hauntingly beautiful. Gave me chills. So there's a lot of good stuff over there. Check out both channels.
I'll have
And then
to
you guys
come
do
and have a
the
check
late
out when
night things, and you do you have cameras running sometimes outside.
Yep.
And
Actually, tonight we have the Night Owl Lounge. We do every Wednesday night. We start at 11 p.m. and we go to usually 4 or 5 a.m. in the morning. And we have outdoor cameras where we capture wildlife, and sometimes we capture stuff in the sky, and we'll see orbs. And all our videos, I've clipped out a lot of it, and you'll see us see orbs or UFOs or some kind of unidentified thing going on. And so that'll be on tonight at 11 p.m. Central. And then Sundays on Piercing the Veil, we have guests on, just like this show. We talk about all kinds of subjects. And this week we have Jessica Jones, the Cryptid Huntress, coming on. So that'll be Sunday night at 6 p.m. Central.
Cool. Okay, and I dropped a link there in the chat, or I'm trying to here. Let's see. There we go.
No, you just dropped their name, Midwest Night Watchers.
And the link. There's the link.
There you go.
Yeah, Dogface got it.
Dog.
Okay, thank you, Dogface.
Yeah, thank you, Dogface.
All right. Well, once again, thanks everybody for being here, and we'll see you next week with another
cheers for joining us, guys.
From Beyond.
Cheers.
Have us back anytime.
Yeah, have us back.
Thanks again. All right, Lee, that's going to do it for this episode. We'll see you tomorrow night for
I'll be on tomorrow night, mate. Yeah.
Radio 108.
Back to back. Original tracks. Not off. It's a full pint.
Hey, Sharon LD, thank you for joining us. And everybody, on behalf of Lee, myself, and Nicole, have a good night and keep looking to the skies. And Lee's going to play us out with some music here. Have a good night, everybody. Thank you.